honestly, you can't go wrong with this Blu-ray, and I'm sure most of
Oh,
you.
at Costco, it's $9.99 right now.
Yeah,
So if you missed out, you can get it even cheaper.
I don't understand why it's so cheap. To be honest, I love that it's so cheap.
I think the Antichrist is going to appear at any moment, because when Blu-rays like this are cheaper than food and gas, then I don't know what's going on anymore.
I agree. I mean, that's $9.99 to $14, and the Clash of the Titans remake is still $29.99. Something's just fucked up with the world, man.
Or you can go to a Blockbuster sale and get it for 99 cents. That's even more fucked up. Adds another layer of fucked upness to it.
It's $1 or it's $30. Yeah. But no, this movie is well worth your buck. There's 3 different commentary tracks on there.
The one I found most interesting is the Criterion one, because, even though it wasn't recorded in '86 as they say, or maybe one of you can clear that up for us. I don't know where they got that misinformation or what, but it's very interesting. Paul Schrader and Martin Scorsese are very to the point, in the early days of recording commentary tracks. It's not like today when they just sit down with no plan like we do. And
bullshit.
Just bullshit it. They probably spent a good amount of time, weeks beforehand, preparing what they were going to say.
Exactly. Scene by scene by scene.
And they actually had this female narrator telling you what they were going to say and what they were going to discuss before they discussed it.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. But one interesting thing from the commentary was learning that Paul Schrader wrote the first draft of Taxi Driver in 10 days and wrote the second draft in 10 days as well. That's fast.
The guy's a monster.
That means
Paul
you have
Schrader.
something inside of you that you got to get out. That's a burning kind of.
That's just
it's very personal. It tells you that this was a very personal thing for Paul Schrader, and in my opinion, this movie belongs to 3 people: Martin Scorsese, Paul Schrader, and Robert De Niro, because I think those 3 people equally made this film what it is.
I'd like to add Bernard Herrmann into that mix too, but I know he didn't have an active. He got the final product and added to it, but I don't think this movie would have been as enthralling, as engrossing as it is without his score. That's just my personal opinion.
It would be totally different without the score.
I mean, think if it had gotten your typical '70s synthesized score. It just wouldn't have been. I know the '80s were more synthed, but '70s still were not really a great decade for film scores, in my opinion. So
this was really
it's a classic.
Yeah, and after this, Scorsese didn't really. This was a very heavily scored movie, classically scored.
Yes.
He wanted to for a classical feel, and after this, obviously he used
Stones,
songs and
The Clash, a lot of great rock, but. Nothing else ever came close to the score in this movie, anything that he used. And just watching this, the textures that you see, because we've still got it playing over here in the side, the textures that you see, like wallpaper curling up off walls, things that you've never noticed before.
The dingy, the grimy, there's a little, what is that? There's a little post office, where you drop a mail.
It's the mail chute.
Mail chute,
with
and it's got the rust and the...
Yeah, you can even see the individual bits of kitty litter in the ashtray.
The flicker there.
Yeah.
Now, people complain about flicker. I kind of like a little bit of flicker.
It's organic.
Yeah, that's. But yeah, it's true to its source. There's nothing. It's not like it's something that's gonna reach out into your living room and knock you over the head.
Right.
Again, like I said, it's in the subtleties.
Right.
Everything is just perfect to what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah. This Blu-ray, I think, to describe it in a 2-word phrase, pitch perfect. You're not going to find a better catalog title. You're barely going to find a better Blu-ray, period. This is demo material. And I don't use that lightly. Sound-wise, picture-wise, everything. Somebody's going to look at this and, I've seen 35mm prints of classic movies projected in the theater. This looks better. This looks.
We've talked about that. The theater, unless you go to a theater that really cares about their shit, generally the bulb is too old, it's too dim.
Yeah.
The screen is 15 years old, it's dingy. you're lucky to get a new film projected at the optimum level with a nice screen and a brand new bulb.
Exactly.
So yeah, and of course when you're shrinking, something from a large screen down to 50 inches, you're going to be able to see all the fine detail.
Exactly. And Albert Brooks just left the screen. Albert Brooks is the only comic relief in this whole movie.
Well, there's a little bit of comic relief about to come up here with Scorsese.
And Scorsese, infamous. Yes.
This is one of those scenes that everyone remembers from the movie.
Yeah.
Where
the 44 Magnum.
Have you ever seen what a?
Yeah.
So we're not going to say it.
Yeah, it just brings forth a horrible visual, to be honest. But
he didn't hold back. He didn't.
No, he didn't. And
he actually had another actor in place to do this, and I think this was kind of a last-second thing.
Well, sometimes as a director, you're sitting there, and having been in on short films with you and whatnot, sometimes you're sitting there and you're watching an actor and you're going, fuck, this is not what I want. Fuck you, get out of the way. I'll do it my damn self,
Yeah.
And that may have been what happened. So, but yeah, no, Scorsese does a great job with his scene here. I mean, really just kind of steals the show. I mean, De Niro even genuinely looks kind of shocked at times. And,
he looks a little nervous.
Yeah, I mean, you really, because you don't know what's going to happen in this scene at the, you don't know how this is going to end. You don't know if he's going to end up having to shoot the guy to keep him from going and killing his wife, or or what. But it's one of many great scenes. And honestly, we could sit here and talk about this movie all night.
Oh yeah, we could beat by beat break down every scene.
I mean, we could do our own commentary for this movie, which we won't bore you with.
No.
But bottom line is...
Hey, somebody's coming... What should we say to folks who have not seen this movie, who are coming to it for the first time?
Fucking see it, man. What are you waiting for?
This is one of those classic movies that if you call yourself a film lover, or you're an aspiring filmmaker, I'm sorry, you have to see it. Movies like this, and A Clockwork Orange, and The Shining, this is one of those movies that you have to fucking see.
I'd say this outshines The Shining or Clockwork Orange, in my opinion. This movie is... This is the end-all, be-all, for me, anyway.
For him, yeah.
For me.
I love it, not quite as much as you do, but, I mean, I still love it, and I'm sitting here telling you, you have to see it. I mean, this is definitely in the top 10, greatest American films.
Yeah.
I mean, outshining even... in my opinion, a lot of people put Raging Bull, but I recently got the Blu-ray for Raging Bull. Actually, they were pretty close together. I think I got Raging Bull first, and then about 3 weeks later, I got Taxi Driver. And having the experience of watching Raging Bull and Blu-ray and then Taxi Driver, I got to say, Taxi Driver still impresses me more. But you want to know a film that I prefer even to Taxi Driver?
What's that?
Mean Streets.
Mean Streets.
It's even got that rougher edge. It seems like the rougher it is, the more I like it when it comes to Scorsese.
Scorsese, he's the guy that runs kind of hot and cold. I mean, you see movies like this, you see movies like Mean Streets, Goodfellas, and then for every one of those, you've got a... Kundun, yeah, which had its merits, but, I mean, it was a soft flick, let's face it, or, Boxcar Bertha, or...
that was kind of,
that was a money, I got to do
that was
something.
A learning experience.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. What was it that...
Corman.
No, it wasn't Roger Corman. It was John Cassavetes saw that movie and said, that was a piece of shit, now go make the movie you really want to make.
Oh, man. That's the thing about filmmaking. You gotta get rid of your fear. Fear is the biggest enemy to a filmmaker.
Exactly.
Fear will keep you from doing anything.
You can't be self-conscious, and Scorsese was not self-conscious with this movie. Going back to that scene, he wasn't self-conscious. If he was self-conscious, he wouldn't have said some of the things that he said in that movie. If you're over-analyzing it, you're going to say, I shouldn't really say this, Even in the 70s, there were things that he wouldn't, you probably wouldn't have touched with a 10-foot pole. Not just politically correctness, but just...
Well, these directors felt emboldened.
Yes.
Because Hollywood is always 10 years behind what music is doing in pop culture. In the 70s, Hollywood was a reaction to 60s counterculture.
This movie was ahead of its time in that, to me, this movie falls so into punk, this movie is, to use a cliche, punk as fuck. And
it was in its times where it was, you know, like I was saying, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a. It's very submersed in the darkness of the 70s.
Yes.
The post Watergate.
Yeah.
Kind of atmosphere.
And you can tell that Travis Bickle is a product of the counterculture 60s in a way, because, you know, he's coming out of, you know, Vietnam, being a Marine, and even a lot of his narration sounds a lot like beat poetry. So, you know, you're pulling a little bit of that out of it too. But then mostly he's just down and dirty New York, man. I mean, from, you know, a product of those streets, a product of that time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. But basically, like I said, we could talk about this movie all night.
Yeah,
but we're not gonna. We're not gonna. Basically, this movie can be had cheap. This movie is
There's
worth
no reason not to have it.
Far more. I would pay $30 for this movie with this quality.
If you only have 10 Blu-rays in your collection,
This needs to be one of them.
this has got to be one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So
This is the reason why we have been talking about doing this bullshit for months, and we have not changed our minds.
Yeah.
I mean, usually we'll get tired of thinking of an idea, but
yeah,
you know, we have to talk about this movie.
Yeah. This one took a couple of times of really absorbing it to really, really appreciate it. And even the scenes that are drenched in darkness.
The reds are great, because
Yes.
usually, you know, the reds can tend to get smeary, and they're not here. They're handled very well. So
blacks are great, colors are great, you know, color saturation's awesome, detail is awesome.
All the colors are
Everything
nicely separated.
Everything's just the grit, the grime, the grain, everything.
It's all there. It is
This
perfection.
movie is texture.
It's perfection.
Yes. So rush out, buy this movie.
You know, we should get some kickback for, you know, because I mean, you know, for the people who are going to go out and buy this movie based upon our recommendation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know,
I
Amazon, you know, throw us a few pennies.
I would just settle for an autographed 8x10 headshot for Martin Scorsese. If he's got headshots.
Headshots of himself?
Headshots of himself.
Oh,
just sitting
man.
there. You know, something like that, you know.
So there's a lot of great features on here, too, that we didn't really talk about.
There really are. There's a 90-minute documentary. This is a huge feature-packed
There's some new
package.
HD interviews and things like that, yeah. Yeah, and they managed to pack it all into this one disc, which that's the one thing I was a little bit afraid.
And the bit rate does not suffer. The bit rate doesn't suffer at all.
It's and we're on a dark scene here, but
it's encoded in the high 20s, mid 30s. So,
yeah, and that's for a dark scene,
right?
So, yeah,
yeah. So you know, basically, if you've never seen it, blind buy it. If you've seen it, you love it, you don't own it, what the fuck's wrong with you?
So that's the thing. I'm always hesitant to say, go fucking get this movie. I don't do that. I rarely do that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sort of, because I realize people have different tastes, but not this, man. We are both telling you, stop the presses, whatever you're doing this weekend, go out, get this fucking movie.
Yeah, unless you're like me, you got to work all weekend, and then still make time to go get it and watch it this coming week. You know?
Do it!
Do it. So that's it for this. Come back, Blu-ray bullshit, on
Cackalacky Movie Madness, baby.